What is going on, everyone? This is NinjaGeek here, and welcome back to another episode of Storytime Saturday. Episode 2, we're going to be talking about my history with Call of Duty, and I mentioned it here and there between different videos that of the first game that I ever played and moving on towards different games. But I never really, went in depth, and I guess this is the perfect series to kind of do that with. And if you did miss my last episode, it was about the Denny's disaster, the awful experience that I got at Denny's. So if you did miss that, that will be in a link in the description below, and probably at the end of this video as well. So this series obviously is going to be uploaded on a Saturday, not every single Saturday, because I do not have that many stories to tell. And then with that out of the way, with further ado, let's get into the history, my history with Call of Duty. So, I first started, my first game was Call of Duty Black Ops, as many of you probably already know that. But that actually is not all that true. My first ever Call of Duty experience was Modern Warfare 2, back in December-ish of 2009, and so you might think, oh, well, you lied to us, but that's actually not the case. My first online Call of Duty game was Black Ops 1, and that is really what I usually try and say, but my first ever, Call of Duty experience, the first Call of Duty game that I have ever played when I first heard about it was Modern Warfare 2, and I remember trying to decide between which game I wanted at the time, Left 4 Dead 2 or Modern Warfare 2. And the reason why I went with Modern Warfare 2 first, which I'll get into that in a minute, was because over the Thanksgiving break, I remember we always went over my aunt's house, and we always, I always ended up playing with my cousins, and we usually played the new Call of Duty that was out that year, because at that point it had been out for a few weeks at that point. And Modern Warfare 2 was, back then in 2009, the game that came out, and everybody was talking about it, and so I got my first glimpse at Modern Warfare 2 back in 2009, and I was absolutely stunned and just enticed into that game world, playing. I think we did play multiplayer, but we also played some private match co-op stuff, or some split screen stuff, I should say. And it was an absolute blast, and I was just like, damn, what is this game called? I really want to get this game. This game is so fun. And, they were all like, it's Modern Warfare 2. So, I had that in the back, and we played it for a good 3 to 4 hours, on and off, depending on, we had to go get some dessert. Obviously, Thanksgiving's a big holiday. So, Modern Warfare 2 was the first Call of Duty game that I ever got experience with. Really, the first Call of Duty that I ever knew about, because at the time I had no idea what Call of Duty even was. It was just not, and it's hard to even say that, because it's like nowadays we know, I know all about Call of Duty, the ins and outs of it, but back then it was not even in existence in my mind. There was no World at War, there was no Call of Duty 4, I didn't know any about that. So I had Modern Warfare 2 in the back of my mind, and I knew that I wanted to get that game, but I also wanted to get Left 4 Dead 2, because I did have Left 4 Dead, the original Left 4 Dead before that, and I knew that Left 4 Dead 2, I really, really wanted to get that game, because also my friends had that one as well, but at the time, I did not have Xbox Live. So at the time, I really wish I should have gotten Left 4 Dead 2, because it's easier to play offline than Modern Warfare 2. I mean, Modern Warfare 2 does have the campaign and the Spec Ops, but you couldn't go online with it, which is what we were doing at my cousin's house at Thanksgiving. So we go into the GameStop back then. Now I usually pre-order my games online on digital editions, just because it's easier to keep track of your games that way. In my opinion, some people probably still prefer the physical copies, but that's just what it is. But anyway, so back then we go into the GameStop, and my mom was like, "You can get any game you want right now," but it can only be one. I couldn't have gotten two. So I was really looking at both games. I knew which ones I wanted, so I was looking at Left 4 Dead 2. I was looking at Modern Warfare 2 in the store. And ultimately, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to go with Modern Warfare 2. It's the big thing everybody's talking about now. I want to be a part of that, I want to be a part of that with my friends talking about Modern Warfare 2. Everybody's talking about it, so I want to be a part of it. So I got Modern Warfare 2, even though I did not have multiplayer, Xbox Live capabilities, I should say. And so I popped the game in, I started playing the campaign. It was absolutely fantastic. Modern Warfare 2 campaign was excellent. But then when I beat Modern Warfare 2, it was pretty much just a done deal. Like, I probably occasionally went back and played it. It was a good campaign, and I eventually went back and I did play the co-op and the Spec Ops missions, but that was pretty much it. Aside from that, I could not access any online features, so therefore, and it's sad to say, that I have not played Modern Warfare 2, Xbox Live, or online capabilities back in its prime, and that's really a shame, because I know that so many people during that time loved Modern Warfare 2, even with its problems, and I wish I could have experienced the same thing that many others have experienced back then in 2009, but unfortunately, that was not the case. And I believe I was in 6th grade during that release, so that was a long time ago. Now I am in college, so just, picture that. So the next big thing that happens, a whole kind of cycle passes, we're into Modern Warfare 2, and eventually down the line I end up getting Left 4 Dead 2. I might have gotten it for Christmas, which was pretty close to then anyways, but I knew that I got Left 4 Dead 2, and I had a lot of more fun in that game because I was able to play it by myself, and then obviously eventually when I got the online capabilities, it was so much more fun with friends, and that's a whole different story in on itself. But yeah, Left 4 Dead 2, excellent game, still fun. I still even play it to this day. Sometimes we hop on there with my friends and we play. But anyways, getting back to Call of Duty, so Black Ops is announced from Treyarch, and I have never played World at War at this point, or never even really heard of World at War, the previous Call of Duty games, but ever since, Modern Warfare 2, I started to really get into Call of Duty. So during, not really into the life cycle of Modern Warfare 2 leading up into Black Ops, but more like into Black Ops during the launching of Modern Warfare 3. That's when I started to find YouTube and people on YouTube and started to get more into Call of Duty and started to learn more about it and started to get, I guess, better at it during that time. But I remember when Black Ops was first announced, and every single day leading up to the launch of it, all my friends in 7th grade were just like, yeah, Call of Duty Black Ops. Like, I just remember it was so much fun learning about the game, learning about what the game had to feature, had to offer. And, back then I just felt like it was just a more positive gaming community. Whereas now we look at a thing like Black Ops 4, and it's just met with an overwhelming approach, I guess you could say. Lots of people like it, but lots don't. So it's kind of mixed opinion. But back then it was just like everybody was on Black Ops, or everyone was on Call of Duty, in other words. So, Black Ops releases in November of 2010, and once again, I bought this game because I absolutely loved it. Now, of course, obviously back then in 7th grade, I didn't buy it because I don't have a job back then, but, I ended up getting it for Christmas, along with Call of Duty World at War that year. So I remember, getting Black Ops and getting World at War. And I wanted to really play through the Treyarch stuff because I wanted to see the campaign at that time was all I had access to. But instead of playing World at War first, I just hopped immediately into Black Ops 1, which, at first I was just like, oh, let's play World at War, but then when I saw Black Ops, when I unwrapped that for Christmas, I was just like, no, I'm playing Black Ops right now. And the Black Ops campaign is my absolutely favorite campaign in Call of Duty history. Modern Warfare 2 comes in at probably a very close second, but the Black Ops 1 campaign is absolutely fantastic. So I played all the way through that and loved every bit of that. And they did have zombies there, which zombies does offer more playing value than a Spec Ops mode, in my opinion, but I didn't really play a lot of zombies. I then went back and played World at War, eventually the World at War campaign, and I saw how it did tie in different references and how it tied in all together with the Black Ops 1 campaign. But I still, at this point, did not have Xbox Live, and I ended up getting Xbox Live during the summer of 2011. So 2011, I was just like, I really want Xbox Live, I want to play with my friends, and I was able to play Xbox Live during that time. So it was a huge different ball game. It was a huge different experience for me back then. And I think my first ever experience with Black Ops 1, I remember correctly now, is I launched into online. You know, I made my Xbox Live account. And at that point, I think my old gamer tag, my original one, was NinjaGeek239, which was the name of my original channel at that time, which is no longer... Well, actually, that channel is now my Mike's Edits channel, which I don't really post to that often at all, pretty much. It was just where I had a place where I could post a bunch of edits to and stuff. But that channel used to be NinjaGeek239, and then I made this channel in 2014. But anyways, so I launched into Black Ops. You know, I friended my friends, and they were like, "Who's this?" And it's like, "It's Mike." So we partied up, and we played Black Ops Zombies for the first time. That was my first ever Xbox Live experience, was Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies, and I had an absolute blast playing it for the first time, and it was just such an experience because before, I have dabbled in zombies before and the campaign and stuff, but I never really communicated online, and it was a first for me to kind of talk with the friends that I went to school with that also played the games that I was playing at the same time, all together online at the same time. And it was a fantastic, fun, just a trip down memory lane now that I think about it, you know. And Xbox Live was just a fantastic thing back when I ended up getting it. So I, at that point during that summer, I played the ever-living crap out of Black Ops 1's multiplayer, and I was absolutely terrible at it because, of course, I had never played a multiplayer really by myself at all. I mean, you know, of course, when I went over with my cousins and stuff, I ended up doing it, dabbled in it a little bit, but I never experienced the gameplay by myself, like playing it just by myself or playing it by myself but with friends. And so this was the first experience with that, and I loved the Black Ops multiplayer, but it was obviously difficult because I had a really, really bad KD. I was just an awful player, but I still loved it, and you know, that's kind of different from where we're at with Call of Duty in today's standards. Normally, if I don't really like the game, it isn't really because I don't do good, it's just because I don't really like the game, or vice versa. And anyways, you know, so we had Black Ops with an amazing campaign, my favorite in the series. Zombies was excellent as well, and then the multiplayer, which I just had experience for the first time, and I was loving it. And then Modern Warfare 3 information started to go live, you know, before then, but in between the summer and getting into the launch up until November, and I was getting really excited for Modern Warfare 3 because I never had played Modern Warfare 2, and so I was really excited for Modern Warfare 3 come in 8th grade, I want to say, like the beginning of 8th grade, Modern Warfare 3, and a bunch of my friends were talking about this one as well. It was the successor to Modern Warfare 2, and in a lot of ways, this game, I think this was the actual best-selling Call of Duty game ever, and Modern Warfare 3 is the Call of Duty game that I have the most playtime into. I think I had over 24, 25 days played into it. Now, I know that for many Call of Duty people, that's not a lot, or players, that's not as much as many others have put into the series, but back then for me, 24 days played, and still even to this day, 24 days played is still a lot, and you know, I had an absolute blast during Modern Warfare 3. You know, it was pretty much just like experiencing Modern Warfare 2 again, but in its prime, you know, and I know that Modern Warfare 3 wasn't exactly Modern Warfare 2, but it was a Modern Warfare game, and it was actually the last one that we will ever see, according to Activision, because that did complete the Modern Warfare series, although at this point there are rumors that a Modern Warfare 4 could happen, which is set for probably a different time in a different video, a different place to talk about that, but hopefully, you know, hopefully Infinity Ward's working on something good over there. That's all I can say. But yeah, Modern Warfare 3, I spent so much time in, so much time playing Infected, so much time playing just the regular multiplayer, leveling up my guns, getting gold. I think I was like 14th prestige in that game. I got up to 10th, then they added in 10 more prestiges, and I think I just stuck at 14 because it was just incredibly frustrating to every single prestige to go for the camos again and to unlock everything again. So I was just like, yeah, I'll stay at 14, and that is where I ended up staying to this day. I am still prestige 14, level 80, and I have a lot of guns gold in that game. You know, MP7 obviously very fun to use, ACR, and then after I used that, I pretty much used the SCAR was really good in that game. The M16, it was an iffy gun. It was pretty bad at launch, but I started to use a lot of the underrated guns that weren't as good just because it kind of got boring to use ACR every single game. You know, Infected was fun going for Moabs, insanely fun, especially like, and then they had, you know, the Moabs on Dome, very fast pace, Moabs just a lot of the place. Now, I was still a bad player during Modern Warfare 3, and so I wasn't as good as a lot of other people were, so I didn't get any Moabs during Modern Warfare 3's prime, I don't believe. I might have gotten one towards the end of the life cycle, but I definitely have gotten maybe 4 or 5 or somewhere around there Moabs at this point in Modern Warfare 3's life cycle. I have gotten, and I mean like actual like legit 24 kill streaks, not like Infected, because I've gotten a ton of those obviously, and that's pretty much why I loved the mode. I also loved Money in the Dank, that game mode. I got a couple of Moabs in that one, I remember as well. And Moabs were just a fun thing to go for, a fun thing to watch on YouTube, which leads me into my next spot, which is this is pretty much where I found YouTube before the launch of Modern Warfare 3 and after the launch of Modern Warfare 3. I found Thunder, which I still watch to this day. There I found Nero Cinema, which I still watch to this day, and it's just interesting to see how far each channel that I've watched since then has grown, and I think those are pretty much the only two that I can remember. I do remember finding Drifter, but I believe Drifters was during Black Ops 2, if I remember correctly, or it could have been the end of Modern Warfare 3, but definitely I remember during Black Ops 2's life cycle, so yeah. So with the YouTube stuff, and it was absolutely fantastic to see Thunder playing Modern Warfare 3 at the start, and then he was just like, you know, I don't really like this game, so we played a lot of Black Ops 1, and that was okay, because I liked Black Ops 1 a lot at the time, and I still played Black Ops 1, even though Modern Warfare 3 was out. I'd kind of switched between the two, but I really did play a lot of Modern Warfare 3, just because it was new to me at the time. It was fantastic. Nero Cinema, he started his channel out, I believe, with Modern Warfare 3. Now, he had a couple of channels and more videos during Black Ops as well, but I found him during Modern Warfare 3, and that's really where he hit the mark to where he is today. Almost, I think, above 500,000 subs, I think, if I remember correctly from the last time that I looked, but he's still going strong. Call of Duty news and content and all that stuff. But back in Modern Warfare 3, I remember that he didn't really like the game and that he was just playing it until really Black Ops 2 came out, or not playing it, but uploading it, I should say, because that's what lots of people wanted to see. Or maybe that's what they didn't want to see, you know, but it was just like the thing, so he was uploading that. But I remember everything just during that time. Modern Warfare 3 on YouTube, fantastic, you know, finding all these people that I could connect with that had the same connections as me in gaming, and that in itself was absolutely fantastic. So we get past the Modern Warfare 3 part, and I'm, you know, getting better at Call of Duty, but not really the best at this point. Well, I guess not the best, I should say, but not really better at this point. Just, you know, doing pretty average. My KD in Modern Warfare 3, I think, is a 1.2, so it's not, you know, bad, but it's not amazing. It's not excellent, but it's just, you know, average, I'd say. And I believe the only reason that it's a 1.2 is because, of course, all the times that I did go back and play Modern Warfare 3 after the fact that I did get better in a lot of other Call of Duty games. But going back to Black Ops, my KD in that game, I think right now is a 1.07, and that's pretty just borderline average, but that's just because I really was trash when Black Ops first came out, and I played it, but then ever since then, and I kept playing it, that's how my KD got better, and even still, it struggles, even though I beast mostly every single game. When I do play that game occasionally, it's just that KD's never going to get up. So, you know, I mean, not that I really care. I'm just kind of comparing where I was with my stats along with my game. So then Black Ops 2 gets announced, and I am absolutely excited, in other words, for Black Ops 2 because I loved Black Ops 1, and I knew that Black Ops 2 was going to be an instant success. It was going to be everything that Black Ops 1 was, but better, and I would get to experience it for the first time ever. So with Black Ops 2, for some reason, I just remember a lot of the hype for it. Obviously, they had Nuketown that they brought back in Nuketown 2025. They had, just different gameplay mechanics that were different, but it was still unique at the same time. And I just remember everyone still being excited for this one, not as nearly as much as Black Ops or Modern Warfare 3. The hype wasn't nearly as there, but this is going into my first year, my 9th grade of high school. Black Ops 2, or did I say Black Ops 3? I meant Black Ops 1, sorry. Nearly not as much hype as Black Ops 1. But Black Ops 2 was still up there in the charts, up there in popularity. And so I think I got the Hardened edition of Black Ops 2 just because I was so into Treyarch games and I loved the Black Ops series, and I still love it to this day. But, so I got Black Ops 2, and I remember my first ever game of Black Ops 2 was using the default Scorpion Evo class on the Aftermath map. And that map, it's not the best, but that was my first game, and I don't honestly know why I remember my first game on Black Ops 2. And I don't remember any other of my games. I really don't. I don't remember my first game on Modern Warfare 3. I don't remember my first game on Black Ops 3. But for some reason, I can remember my first game on Black Ops 2. And that just shows you how much of a precedence that game has set. And that's pretty much Black Ops 2, if you ask anybody, is the game that they want to see remastered, brought back, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, anyways, Black Ops 2 was an absolutely fantastic game that really did improve upon a lot of the things in the first game. Of course, it was set in the future, which a lot of people kind of were turned off on at this point. The campaign did have some things that were from the past, and the campaign was pretty good as well. But it was mainly set in 2025, which at that point, back in 2012, that was pretty decently far future. Now it's only a few years away, to be honest. Right now we're in 2018, so 2025 is not that far away, only 7 years away. But people were kind of upset a little bit that it was in the future, but nonetheless, it's still, at this point, as we knew, was boots on the ground. And we didn't even know boots on the ground was a saying at this point because there was no jetpacking games. But yeah, so it was an absolutely fun game. It really had what Black Ops had, but it did it a lot better. And I felt like it was a game that I really improved at and really got better in my games. Now at this point in time with Black Ops 2, I felt like I could get a lot more VSATs and a lot more of the higher or mid-tier to higher streaks more often than I could in Black Ops 1 and Modern Warfare 3 at the time. And Black Ops 2 was just a fun experience, and the DLC was excellent as well. The zombies content, I remember playing it with my friends, back then, and it was absolutely fantastic. Buried is probably one of my favorite maps. I hope to see it return someday, hopefully maybe in Black Ops 4, but I know that we're getting Mob of the Dead remastered, called Blood of the Dead in Black Ops 4, which that map was also fantastic as well in Black Ops 2. And, yeah, so overall, Black Ops 2 had a fantastic season pass with its DLC, and the guns excellent, in my opinion. You had the overpowered FAL. That thing was insanely good, and maybe it was overpowered at the start, and then they nerfed it, and it's still good to this day. The MP7 in that game is, in my opinion, better than the one from Modern Warfare 3. Absolutely fantastic. It's my favorite gun in Call of Duty history. You did have the Scar L, I believe it was, or it could have been, maybe it was the H. I don't honestly remember, but it was one of the scars that was very popular in the other Call of Duty games like Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, brought into Black Ops 2, and I believe we're even seeing a version of it being brought into Black Ops 4. Not exactly, but I think it's called the Rampart. At least in the way that the iron sights look, it's almost similar. But anyways, yeah, the Scar was excellent, the AN-94, the Ballista Sniper, the DSR Sniper, and snipers in Black Ops 2 were absolutely crazy, and I remember Thunder complaining about them for good reason, because they were absolutely just insanely overpowered and broken to the most part of the extent, and I completely agreed with him, because in every single gameplay, a lot of people were sniping, and for good reason, because it was just absolutely just insane. It was pretty much almost like the World War II snipers are right now, how broken they are, but we'll get to that later down the line. So, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 overall was a very successful game. judging by the sales-wise, but also just in my experience of it. In my experience, I absolutely loved the game, and it brought a lot of, my friends were still online, were still playing it, constantly. We played every single day. So then, fast forward to the end of Black Ops 2. I think I said Black Ops 3 by accident again, but fast forward to the end of Black Ops 2's life cycle. We're getting towards that point where Call of Duty Ghosts is announced by Infinity Ward, and everybody is so excited for Call of Duty Ghosts because it's Infinity Ward back at the table, and we think that they're going to improve upon this Modern Warfare game, and even though it's a new IP, it's still going to have lots of things that Modern Warfare had. And it was very exciting to a lot of people at the time. And I remember back when that game was coming out, I didn't really care that much about Black Ops 2. I really just was overdone with it. And so at that point, I was just like, I didn't really care. And I had a couple of my friends over, and one of my friends reset my stats in Black Ops 2, which I then regretted because during Ghost Lifecycle I actually wanted to go back to Black Ops 2 and I had nothing, but I ended up getting back to Master Prestige again in that game just because of it was a fun game and how it leveled up. But anyways, so Call of Duty Ghosts comes out, and I should say, and a couple of my friends come to the GameStop midnight release, where basically we went across the street to the movie theater that was across the street, and we were able to watch gameplay of Strike Zone all the time, just like people just kept going up to play, and it was a fun experience and very fun. It was just annoying to see Strike Zone over and over and over again. But I do remember all of that happening, right there. And getting into the midnight release, so we're all standing there, it's pretty cold outside because at this point it is November, and we get our copy of the game. I think I got one of the higher versions of the game, but I did get it for the 360, of course, because that's when it came out. And I liked Call of Duty Ghosts for about 3-ish months. Lots of people saw problems with Call of Duty Ghosts earlier on than that, but me, I stuck it out for 3 months, and I didn't really stick it out. In other words, I really did enjoy the game when it came out, unlike lots of other people. But then after 3 months, it kind of got boring, to say the least, and I kind of just saw the problems that other people saw with how they have the SATCOM and how the game just wasn't really that good compared to a Modern Warfare game that they have made in the past. And of course, we all know or should know about the fallout that Infinity Ward had with Activision back in 2009, which caused them to split, and then they had to shamble it together for Modern Warfare 3. So making Ghosts was by the new Infinity Ward team, not the same exact team that made Modern Warfare 2. So Ghosts was a flop, I guess. In other words, I did enjoy it for a while, and I did play most of the DLC. I think I played all the DLC because I did have the higher edition with the season pass in it, and it was very fun. Ghosts had a lot of the good maps in the DLC, like Fog. I was almost going to say Chasm. I was like, whoa, what am I saying here? But Fog, Bayview, I remember just those two specifically, fantastic maps. You had the one with the Predator on it, just lots of fantastic ideas with the Michael Myers and the Predator and the field orders, and they did a lot of fun things and interesting things with Ghosts that I did really enjoy during Ghosts life cycle and Prime. But the ship maps with the game, you had Stormfront, Siege, Chasm, Stonehaven. Yeah, just maps that were very big, very boring, unplayable, bland. The list goes on, and that's why I think a lot of people got turned off, plus from the fact that they changed up the SATCOMs and this and that. Ghosts was an average game. They really tried to innovate, but it kind of backslapped them, in other words, and I like that they tried to put more initiative and more reason into getting the DLC, but the problem with that is DLC is like it is every single year, where lots of people don't get to experience it, and hopefully that does change within Black Ops 4. So, moving on, we found out during Ghost Lifecycle that Activision was actually planning on making a new studio into the mix with Sledgehammer Games, who had previously helped in Modern Warfare 3, and I believe maybe a little bit of Ghost, but I don't think so. I think that at that point they were obviously working on their new game, which we found out at that point would have a 3-year development cycle, and then we found out that it was going to be Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. And I think that we knew Sledgehammer was making a new game at that point, obviously in time. So we were very excited to see what they had to bring to the table, because it's their first time on their own. And we saw that it was Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. And I just remember being kind of disappointed when I first saw that, because I was just hoping that they would do something else, I guess. And I guess that is something else. It's something different that we've never seen before with the advanced movement in Call of Duty. But at that time, we didn't know anything about it. We just knew that the game was called Advanced Warfare, and then we got more information, such as the campaign. We started seeing campaign footage at E3, and we got all of this information. All that was great, and we saw that they had this new jumping and exo abilities and stuff that you can jump around, and we're like, oh, that's cool and all, but we want to see some multiplayer. What's the classic multiplayer? And then it started to stir up that, well, maybe this stuff that's happening in campaign with the thrust jumping and everything is going to be a multiplayer. And I was just like, well, no, they're not going to do that. That's absolutely not going to even happen. Like, I understand, they're trying something quirky for the campaign, but it's, multiplayer's got to be multiplayer, right? And then Sledgehammer themselves came out probably shortly after then and said, no, it's everything in campaign, that we've worked on for the past 3 years. That's going to be a multiplayer. We want to bring in new experience to the table. So at that point, when I had that information, I was absolutely just stunned. I was like, oh, well, this could either go really good or it could tank. And it ended up tanking, from my opinion anyways. A lot of people probably could have liked the game, but from my opinion, the game absolutely was just awful. So we get the game coming out in November of that year after we had Ghosts, and I played the campaign. Usually I played the campaign first. Now I more tend to dabble into multiplayer first after Black Ops 3 had launched, which we will get into soon. But with Advanced Warfare, I played the campaign first, and then I went into the multiplayer, and within the first week, I was just like, okay, I mean, it's not bad, but I don't entirely like it, but I'm going to give it a little bit. And then week 2 went by, and I was just like, eh. And then week 3 went by, and not only was I completely bored with it, but I was just frustrated with the game, and I did not enjoy playing it at all. So after the 3rd week, I pretty much stopped playing Advanced Warfare. Now, it didn't come to a complete stop after that week. After the 3rd week, I started to play just like less frequently, maybe instead of every day, maybe it was every other day, and then by a month, after the game came out, it was maybe like 2 times a week, and then after that, it was just like nothing. Like, I just had no interest to play the game, did not enjoy it, did not like what they did with the game. And, I mean, occasionally then and again, I would go back and play it just to kind of get a feel for the new updates that they might have put into the game, but I did not play it every single day, and I did not play it every single week. I just did not like the game of Advanced Warfare that much, and that's pretty much during the time when I really got into Destiny. Now, Destiny is a whole other topic in and of itself, and I absolutely love Destiny 1. Destiny was a fantastic game. It kind of separated that bridge between having a Call of Duty game that I just did not like, and it kind of made me want to play Destiny so much more. And it's like, oh, well, Destiny has the same advanced and thrust jumping and this and that. And that may be true, but I just did not like it, especially because I expected something more like Call of Duty, more in line with Call of Duty with Advanced Warfare. Whereas Destiny was just a completely different IP all in and of itself, that it was just new, and I just loved it. It was something that I loved, versus Advanced Warfare, which was something that I just did not like, and just did not like the developers behind them. But yeah, so Bungie with Destiny 1, absolutely fantastic, and I was playing that for at least a solid year. You know, every single day I'd hop on that game, and that kind of bridged the gap more towards Black Ops 3. And even into Black Ops 3's life cycle, I still played a lot of Destiny, but then it slowly started to fade out as, you know, as time does happen and games get older. It did fade out, but I did still play a lot of Destiny and still enjoyed it during that time. But anyways, so enough about Advanced Warfare. We get into Black Ops 3 here. And Black Ops 3 was absolutely fantastic, not only because it had a beta, but it had a damn good beta and a damn good gameplay too. I remember during the beta times, this is when I got a PS4 because I wanted to play with some friends over on the PS4, and that was when Call of Duty kind of switched to PS4, so I was just like, alright, let me get a PS4 and see how this goes. And plus I wanted to try out a couple of other PS4 exclusives like The Last of Us and so on. So we played Black Ops 4 on PS4, and it was absolutely fun. Got a couple of nuclears in the beta. Rejack obviously overpowered back then, and then they ended up nerfing it. Black Ops 3, I don't know if I just said Black Ops 4. It's kind of confusing with all these names. Forgive me if I have said any kind of incorrect names along the way, but we're on Black Ops 3 right now, and it was absolutely fun. Then, when the main game came out, I got both copies, one for PS4, one for Xbox One, just so I could play with my friends on the Xbox as well. And it was just kind of confusing to kind of swap between consoles, and mainly I've been an Xbox player for years. So I ended up along the way sticking with Xbox, and I ended up selling my PS4, but not yet. I still had it during Black Ops 3's life cycle, and I still played it for the most part, but I played mainly on Xbox more. And yeah, because I like Xbox, it's more of my platform. I just like, I've been with Xbox for a long time. I've had my stuff with Xbox, so I didn't really feel like a need to maintain a higher profile status on a PS4 when I had my Xbox with my friends who I went to school with and such. So Black Ops 3, with the updates and the content that came to that game, was absolutely fantastic. Obviously, they had the supply drop system in it, just like they did in Advanced Warfare, except it was a terrible system, and I just remember it was just frustrating trying to unlock anything in that game, essentially. But the base game was fun, and the DLC maps were very fun because during that time I did have a PS4, so I was able to get the maps a month before Xbox got it, which previously Xbox used to get all of the exclusivity deals. And yeah, so I ended up getting it for a month before, and the maps were pretty solid. You know, they had really good maps in Black Ops 3, but they weren't anything that wasn't like the base map sucked or anything like that. It was just extra maps that were added in that were pretty fun. And, you know, Black Ops 3 overall, the zombies was pretty good too, but it wasn't anything that really stood out, sort of like how Black Ops 2 did, for me personally anyways. And so Black Ops 3 was just an all-around good game, and I did enjoy it a lot. And I think I definitely am Master Prestige on Xbox, and I don't have my PS4 anymore, so I don't remember. But I think the last time I remember I was Prestige 5 on that console. I could have been 6, but anyways, yeah, I am Prestige Master on Xbox One, and I am level almost 200, not quite there, but yeah, so I did put a lot of playtime into Black Ops 3, and I think over 10 days, I want to say, worth of playtime. Black Ops 2, I think I had close to 20 days, and then, of course, Modern Warfare 3 is my most played with 24, almost 25-ish days, so that goes that on the playtime. But yeah, Black Ops 3 is probably my third most played Call of Duty game, and it was just a lot of fun. Even with the chaotic movement that they had in Black Ops 3, it still was a lot of fun because it was toned back. It wasn't as jumpy and chaotic and overdone as Advanced Warfare had been the previous year beforehand, and so I liked what Treyarch did with Black Ops 3. Then we get, during Black Ops 3's life cycle, we got Overwatch, and that really took over my channel, pretty much my life at that point. Overwatch was a fantastic game, and it probably almost comes close to being my favorite multiplayer shooter of all time. However, it just kind of fell short just because over the time it just kind of got boring. Now, I did play it for over a year straight, like straight through. I just didn't even play Call of Duty, and well, I did play Black Ops 3, but then as Infinite Warfare got announced, it was, it was good, and I wanted to get into Infinite Warfare, but I still continued to play Overwatch, and that's pretty much it on the little Overwatch spiel. But getting back to Call of Duty, they announced Infinite Warfare, and I wasn't excited for this one at all when we got gameplay, and even during the demo of the game, because it did have a beta, but it was more of a demo since it came out a few weeks, or a week actually, right before the game launched on Xbox. The demo came out a week before, so obviously it was not a beta, and it just didn't seem like they were ready. It seemed like they copied a lot of things that Black Ops 3 had, just a lot of watered down stuff. I just did not play Infinite Warfare or like it. I think I'm still level 44 on Infinite Warfare on Xbox One right now, just level 44. And that is that, and that's for me playing it after the fact, after the point of its release, after its release cycle. So, Infinite Warfare did come with Modern Warfare Remastered, and this was pretty much the reason why I got Infinite Warfare. And I played Modern Warfare Remastered for about a month and a half straight on. Like, I played Overwatch here and there, but I really played Modern Warfare Remastered for a month and a half. And then after that, I kind of went back to Overwatch, kind of dabbled between those two games a lot. Modern Warfare Remastered was a lot of fun, but the supply drop stuff kind of ruined it for me in a way. And I know it wasn't the worst supply drop system we've ever had, but it is pretty close to being, it still had a supply drop system in it, and it just was not fun to grind for 2 hours to get pretty much nothing for one supply drop in that game. But yeah, otherwise, Modern Warfare Remastered was still a pretty fun game, and I ended up playing that plus Black Ops 3 plus a lot of the other Call of Duty games during that time. So during Infinite Warfare's life cycle, it was mainly Overwatch. It was, heavily I'd say Overwatch, probably like 90, maybe 85, 90%. And then Modern Warfare Remastered in there for the other percentage, and maybe just a small part of Black Ops 3, but not that much. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I was playing during that time. Then, after Infinite Warfare launches, and we get the next Sledgehammer game, and we're all wondering, is it going to be Advanced Warfare 2? Hopefully they don't do that, and we find out it is Call of Duty World War II, which brings a lot of players hype and a lot of fans back to the series because it is boots on the ground. It is going back to what Call of Duty really stood for, and I was all for it. I wasn't necessarily excited about the setting of World War II. Of course I was, but I wasn't anticipating that it had to be a World War II setting. I was just fine with any kind of boots on the ground game that we were going to get. So, nonetheless, I was excited for World War II, and I kind of got pulled into the loop because when the game did release, and it did have a beta, and the beta was excellent, and in my opinion, I do believe that the beta was actually better than this main game is today. Maybe not today, but at least at launch, the beta was better than the main game. And so the beta was pretty fun, and then we get the main game of World War II, and it's pretty much fun, I did enjoy it more than Advanced Warfare, but as the weeks and weeks go by, I noticed that there was a lot of problems with the game. It was very lackluster, and just a lot of balancing issues that the game had, and Sledgehammer didn't really fix it until 4.5 to 5 months later, pretty much almost around the same time when Michael Condrey and Glenn Schofield left their own founding studio of Sledgehammer Games to join not join, but to become a bigger part of Activision. And so a new studio leader, Aaron Halan, took over. I don't know exactly entirely how you pronounce his name, but he took over Sledgehammer, and the game's been getting better since. I'm happy to say that the game is in a playable state now, with the Divisions update that they had, and of course with the Attack of the Undead, and of course all the content updates and the weapon drops and this and that to keep people playing. World War II isn't that bad of a game, but it still has problems that have been in the game since launch. And so it's been on and off for me. I've been playing it a lot recently with the Attack of the Undead event, but beforehand, I was just kind of didn't really know what to play. I played a lot of Black Ops 3 as well, still to this day with the triple play bribe that just happened, and I haven't really touched that game since I ended up getting the Max GL China Lake launcher. But anyways, aside from that, I do play some Black Ops 3 right now. not a whole lot. And then I eventually, like, during this year has been the year that I really went back to a lot of different games and tried out a lot of new games as well. So I went back to, of course, Black Ops 3 I played a lot of Black Ops 1, 2, Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 as well. I meant TOO, but 2 also. And, most of the games that are backwards compatible, I go back and play, and aside from that, of course, then World War II. So whatever I feel like playing here and there is what I felt like playing during World War II. And now we're at the stage where we're getting into launching of Black Ops 4. Well, we already got some gameplay. We got the release, the info. Most of that stuff we haven't seen Blackout yet. We've know about zombies, but we haven't seen Blackout yet. And that's going to be the next thing that's very anticipated to come with. And with Black Ops 4, I've already shed my light on a lot of these thoughts. But I think that a lot of the community is kind of upset because it's not really what we were expecting from Treyarch. I was kind of expecting them to go a different direction, but here we are with Black Ops 4, and so far it's looking okay. But my biggest problem is that it's going to be hard. Oh yeah, and also one thing I did forget to mention, sorry, but GTA 5 came out in Call of Duty Ghosts and during Call of Duty Ghosts, and GTA 5 really kind of took over that part as well. So during Ghosts lifecycle, I was playing GTA 5 a lot after I realized that Ghosts wasn't the best of games like we discussed before, and I kind of stopped playing it after 3-ish months. And GTA 5 was really the game that I played a lot with my friends and still continue to play to this day. GTA is fun. So now, getting into Black Ops 4, they have a lot to compete with this year. Obviously, with the different games that E3 is actually going on right now as I am recording this, but probably will be almost over by the time this video is posted, because it is a long video. I'm going to have to edit it and stuff like that. But with all these games coming out, with Red Dead 2 especially being sort of like, Rockstar's big game, and I'm very excited for Red Dead 2, with that game coming out, with the new Fallout coming out, with, not entirely right at this point, but with Dying Light 2 being announced and coming out soon, Black Ops 4 has a lot of games that are going to be competing with it, and even Battlefield 5, to say the least, because I heard and have seen lots of gameplay and stuff that Battlefield 5 has kind of tried to make their game more, the gunplay more like Call of Duty, not saying that directly, but more in that the fact that the gunfights seem a lot better than they have with all the Battlefields in years previous. So, they're obviously competing for a top spot, and if Black Ops 4 just doesn't deliver, it's just not going to deliver. I'm excited for Zombies, I'm excited for the Voyage of Despair, excellent idea. I have always dreamed of something like that, of playing on the Titanic, first-person stuff, especially with zombies, like I mentioned in that other video that I made about Black Ops 4 when it first was announced with the zombies and the multiplayer and all that stuff. And, so I'm excited for Voyage of Despair. I'm excited for the Blood of the Dead remake. But other than that, the multiplayer, it looks good, but it's not really anything that I would say that I definitely need to pre-order. Like right now, I have Red Dead 2 pre-ordered. I have the Telltale's Walking Dead game pre-order, which I've also been playing those games along the way as they've come, because Telltale's The Walking Dead series is absolutely fantastic. And also Life is Strange as well. Is fantastic. So, just different games I've been playing along the life cycle. It's not like I've only been playing Call of Duty, but today I just wanted to dive deep into Call of Duty and my history with it, and that's pretty much where it is right now. We're getting into Black Ops 4, and we don't know what Infinity Ward is working on at this point, but one can only hope that it is Modern Warfare. But yeah, so let me know down in the comments below, I guess, what was your first Call of Duty game, and what was your first Call of Duty game? Like, was your first one sort of like how mine was, where you didn't have online capabilities, but then you got it the next year, or a few years later? Or, like, what was the first Call of Duty game you ever experienced, and the first online Call of Duty game you've ever experienced, I guess you can say. But now that we are nearing the 50-minute mark on this video, very long video, I hope you do all enjoy it and the gameplay that I did serve with it. I will see you on the next one. This is NinjaGeek. Have a good one, and peace.
Securing Bravo. Timeline in jeopardy. Pick it up. Care package inbound. Securing Bravo. Losing A. Bravo up down. Enemy has Alpha. Mission clock about to expire. Step up. Securing Alpha. Losing Bravo. UAV awaiting orders. Losing Bravo. Friendly UAV inbound.